Almost all of trading struggles, either the ones we blame psychology, revenge, FOMO, chasing stocks, not achieving the results that you want, in my opinion, always stem from the foundation we choose to build. I believe, everyone thinking about your foundation and understanding your foundation deeply is one of the best superpowers to achieve true clarity in the markets and eliminate the roots of so many struggles. Being in the markets and trading is like being in an environment that always stress test your foundation. It's like being in an environment of constant earthquakes and hurricanes, with some periods of great weather. Okay, but you can't avoid these hurricanes. So the better the structure, the more aligned it is, the better established connections you have, the better you will stand. You will never share the same feedback from people that you inherit things. So since you won't ever share this feedback, you must find other reasons besides feedback to stick to it. And do you know when true clarity and confidence emerges? When you find personal answers to your doubts and you reach a point that you say, you know what, from my research, 95% of what I do and what I include in my system seems optimal. Since I found out that most of the things I do are optimal, either I do that or I should better not get involved in the markets. Start thinking like an engineer. Focus on the knowledge that you may already have and try to enhance things a bit more. Trust yourself and your powers and add an extra layer of thinking. That's how gradually, you become an engineer of your system and outperform both the markets and all of the people that want to keep being operators.
Okay, welcome back everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce the next presenter of the Trading Line Conference, Marius Stamatoudis. He is known for his reflective and in-depth essays distilling the principles of momentum and swing trading. He's a top performer at the U.S. Investing Championship with a return of over 290%. And today he'll be discussing mastering your trading foundation, thinking like an engineer. This should be excellent. Marius, thank you so much for your time and looking forward to diving in.
Hello, Richard. Hello, everyone. It's really great being here once again. I think this conference is probably the best source of concentrated and at the same time diversified, information due to the number of speakers. And as I said, it's really great being part of it once again, and I'm really grateful for the cause behind this conference. So today, since we have about an hour to speak, and I'm known for making long presentations, this time I have decided to break, the tradition and make a short presentation, but in my opinion, really effective one. Talking about the topic that basically represents, let's say, the central gear of every trader. And as you see, it's about mastering your foundation, escaping from the operator mindset and thinking like an engineer. So the goal generally for today, guys, is to think about your trading foundation, to make you think about it more and more, and what it takes to structure your system in a way that is solid, and how to approach trading like an engineer and not just an operator. And I've said it many times, and I will repeat it here because I find it really important. And it has helped me a lot during the years. Most of almost all of trading struggles, either the ones we blame psychology, revenge, FOMO, chasing stocks, not achieving the results that you want, in my opinion, always stem from the foundation we choose to build. So I believe, everyone, and that's, what I did through the years, that thinking about your foundation and understanding your foundation deeply enough is one of the best superpowers, if not the only real superpower, to achieve true clarity in the markets and eliminate the roots of so many struggles and start getting closer to the results that you desire, right? So let's start with something simple, okay, something basic. Which is, what is the trading foundation? I mean, all of the traders talk about, the trading foundation. They use the term quite a lot, and I use this term, a lot of times on my post on Twitter. So all of you that are hearing, this, you probably have a foundation, a trading system in place, or maybe you are in a process right now structuring the system or enhance it. So my question to you is, what truly is a trading foundation? What does a trading foundation, represent? Okay, so for me, a trading foundation, represents, consists, let's say, of all the parts that make up our whole trading system, and each of the big parts and the big components have many parts as well. So the core parts of any given foundation, in my opinion, are the following: its basic knowledge about the markets, its market structure and philosophy, its setups, its math behind risk management and principles, its preparation studying. It's about entry and selling tactics and some techniques for more enhanced performance, all merged with connections between them. And the best way to describe a trading foundation or visualize it, and I want you to start thinking of it this way for this presentation, is like an engine. And thinking of your personal foundation this way basically helps a lot to fully understand whether a foundation is faulty or not, or if it's missing something, or even if it is complete, to give you some more clarity of some areas of adjustment in order to achieve the results that you desire. It's truly the foundation, honestly, guys, itself that shapes the trader. It's the foundation that gives identity. It's the foundation itself that establishes habits. It's the foundation that dictates and prompts us into actions. It's the foundations that really shapes us and our results. And as I mentioned in the at the start, it's usually issues, faulty areas or inconsistencies within the foundation that most of that create the roots of our trading struggles. Okay, so let's try to think of it a bit further. So let's say you have a trading foundation and visualize it like an engine, as I said, a trading engine. What's the first thing we want out of an engine? All right, think about that. The first of all, right, the engine must work. All right, so what does this mean? It means that you need all of the parts in your foundation. If any single part of the engine is missing, or if it's not solid, or if any part is there in a period of time, all right, and out of the engine in another period, the engine just won't work. Or if it works, it will break down, in a short amount of time. So remember all the parts of the foundation. Even if you have basic knowledge around the markets, even if you have some structural viewpoints, you have setups, you have, if you have a missing part, let's say solid selling tactics, or you don't apply them, it just won't work. If you have, every part in there, structure, entries, tactics, setups, selling tactics, but you lack, for example, preparation or studying, the engine just won't work. If you have everything in place, but you lack understanding of probabilities, math, principles of risk management, it won't work for a long time. And guys, last year I've done a lot of free calls in a one-to-one format, one-on-one format, and I met a lot of traders, and there were a lot of people that were struggling or felt that they were missing something, or that maybe they were break even. And the first question I asked to try to figure out if they had a complete engine, a complete foundation, I tried to ask them basically questions to figure out this specific stuff, right? If they have a complete foundation. And you can't imagine how many times I asked, for example, what's your position sizing? Or what's your risk per trade? Or how do you sell? Or why do you use the selling method? What's your everyday preparation? What's your routine? What are certain structural views about the market, and many more, right? So these are basic, foundation component questions, right? So a lot of times I did not receive clear answers, solid answers. Some people were saying, "Oh, I don't use stop losses," or I don't have a complete selling system in place," or maybe they knew about setups and strategies but didn't have a market understanding to justify these setups, or they didn't have understanding of certain structural tendencies that make all these setups and strategies evident and meaningful. Other traders weren't preparing before the market opened, or they never went to study some phenomena and some repeating things that happen in the markets, both technically, behaviorally, fundamental wise. So that's incomplete foundations, guys. That's an incomplete engine. And what's strange in trading is that a lot of people with incomplete engines get rewarded in some periods, and they kind of forget that they need to fill more gaps to ensure some longevity, until it gets bad. Because when you don't have all the parts, you might hear some noise coming out of this engine, this trading engine, because some parts are there indeed. But that does not mean that the engine, will work for long. It won't, and that's the truth. And guys, like it's really hard after years of being in the game to admit that maybe my engine is incomplete. And I've been there myself years back with an incomplete engine, pretending that everything, is fine. This is mostly, in my early days. I may have had setups, but I may have not had a solid, specific philosophy about markets. I didn't have basic structural knowledge that makes everything connect and makes these setups evident. I didn't know the cause and effect of things. So I had many holes in my preparation and many more, right? Like it's natural. It happens to all. So the first thing that every trader must do to find, must do to as he structures his foundation, his engine is, to fill in all the gaps to reach a complete foundation. So a trader must have, as I said, basic knowledge about the markets and understand structural tendencies, all right, and have a certain philosophy about the cause and effect of things, and understand probabilities and math behind risk management, have setups, preparation, studying, entry, selling tactics, and some tactics for better efficiency, better performance. So this is the first thing to actually make things start rolling and start gaining some longevity. But even that isn't even close to enough, guys. All right, like an engine just being complete and working isn't enough. And there is a tendency in the trading world to forget about it. Like we spent so many years trying to assemble all the parts together, only to get some surprised at some point of why things aren't working out the way we expected them. So even if you have all the parts and you know about structure, setups, principles of risk management, you do preparation and all that stuff that we discussed, okay, you have to wonder why you possibly still face issues. Okay, people usually have complete foundations and think they are ready, and I was thinking that too. But the journey proved me wrong, because throughout my journey I learned that just having a complete trading engine with all the parts is not enough. So a trading engine must be able to do 3 more things, and that's why I said to visualize it like an engine. Okay, an engine must be able to perform 3 more tasks besides working. So what are they? Can you think? What does an engine needs to do besides working? So to give you the answer, these are the other 3 requirements for our trading engines. As I said, first, a trading engine must work, and then the other 3 is that the trading engine must tolerate enough stress and harsh environments. A trading engine must not overheat and fail, And the trading engine must be fully optimized and efficient. And guys, these are the things that truly make a difference in a foundation and your longevity and your clarity and your confidence and your results. These last three, okay? And I will explain. So, when I say a trading foundation must be able to tolerate enough shakes and harsh environments, it's important to remember that being in the markets and trading, is like being in an environment that always stress tests your foundation. It's like being in an environment of constant earthquakes and hurricanes, with some periods of great weather, okay? But you can't avoid these hurricanes. They are there, okay? And as I said, these constant shakes the market creates always stress tests the parts of your foundation and the connection and the bonds between them. So the better the structure, the more aligned it is, the better established connections you have, the better you will stand. So it's a common phenomenon for traders in certain periods, in the market that are generally, let's say, harder to trade, or even, just not extremely bullish, scenarios. It's really common for traders to feel uneasy and say, oh, the setups don't work. Should I change my position size? Should I find new filters? Should I find new scans? Should I find other setups, new setups? And I've experienced that as well as I progressed. And I'm sure many of you, second guess many times the things you do, especially on harder periods, right? So have you felt this pressure from time to time? That's my question, right? And as I said, the market is always going to create pressure and stress test your system. So it's so important, guys, to build a foundation and structure it in a way that can tolerate all these shakes. And for me, in order to, for a trading engine, a trading foundation, to tolerate stress and ensure better resilience, we need two things. Okay? The first thing is that all parts must fit perfectly together and be aligned, and also all parts within the foundation must be bound together really strongly. And I will explain what I mean. So each and every one of us have different foundations, even in the same style of trading. Okay, we have different foundations. The thing is, though, that not all the foundations out there have parts that are perfectly connected, nor their parts are perfectly aligned. And this is, a really common issue for traders. Like, think about it. Some people might use setups they learned somewhere in books, right? A risk management method they heard, somewhere else. Some scanning methods, from someone that they found out on Twitter, or selling rules from a different trader, and have some structural viewpoints from somewhere else. So let's say someone has all the parts that we discussed before, which is perfect because the engine works. But that does not mean that all of the parts that were assembled together fit, all right, or that they are aligned, or that they have, listen, strong bonds between them. And this is a loop, most traders in the markets end up getting themselves into, and only a small number of traders are able to break through this barrier. And I was in this spectrum for long. So getting, to the first point, if, for example, you learn, some setups from one trader and try to apply the selling rules of a different trader, and you use scans from other people, okay, these things are not certainly aligned, okay? It's never going to work if you don't make adjustments to make things aligned. And just to give you a quick example, okay, listen to this. If your philosophy about the markets, your viewpoints around the markets, and what, let's say, you mentally, what mentally you're shooting for is capturing big moves, and you are shooting for extreme reward to risk scenarios, and you have adjusted many elements of your foundation to serve this purpose. Let's say you have adjusted your structural views, many parts of your foundation to do that, and you operate under a small win rate, okay, to be able to have tight stops, okay. So let's say you have adjusted a lot of parts of your foundation to serve this purpose, but you have, for example, a selling rule that is part of your system that prompts you to sell most of your shares after 2 or 3 days. This is a misaligned foundation. Like, it doesn't even make sense, because the selling part within your foundation doesn't correlate with other parts, because you have fine-tuned specific parts for a reason, and then you actually negate these very own goals with other parts. And there are many different combinations of misaligned foundations that people use, and they haven't figured it out yet. So I believe it's really important thinking about your foundation, and gradually align the parts, okay, and align the ideas you inherit from others and make adjustments to fit your specific principles, okay. Every part within your foundation must correlate, and serve the goals of the previous part, and the next part, until the structure gets completed and it's fully aligned to your own principles, okay. And that basically leads us, to the following, because besides alignment, I mentioned something else. I said all the parts must have strong bonds together, and this is, huge, guys, okay. This is huge. So let me explain, okay. Even if you've thought this through and you have an aligned foundation, okay, everything fits together and it's complete, you have all the parts, okay. Let's say it's a foundation you learned from books or from traders you admire in the markets, all right. So you got a full foundation, and it's somewhere, most of the parts are aligned. That does not mean that your foundation has really strong bonds between the parts. And I mentioned this quite a lot when I'm meeting, with traders, because the successful trader whom you lended the approaches and the system itself probably has strong bonds and strong connections between all of the parts of the system, but your inherited foundation does not, because strong bonds, okay, and connections within the system are created only, on a personal level, and they require work. So, you have to wonder, all right, like, for all the things that you do within your foundation, the stocks you track, the setups you use, the stop loss width you use, the entries, the selling, like, do you do all these because you have found superior traits to all of these parts, or have you assembled and apply all these parts, most of that stuff, just because you saw other successful people doing them and applying them? Like, this is the difference. Because if you do things just because others are doing it, or because other people have had success, you will never create strong bonds between your parts, even if they are aligned. And I will try to explain why not having these strong connections leads to problems. But basically, there is only one way to create these strong connections and bonds that it's needed between the parts, okay? And that is trust fully the foundation and eliminate all your doubts and answer most of your whys, and that's how you gain true confidence. Like, this is the sole way you can create strong bonds between the parts. And the reality is that a few people actually do this. So what happens when you don't, bond strongly these parts? What happens? When you have an inherited system or a foundation, you will naturally have many unanswered questions. and many doubts. It's normal, right? Because you will operate the system, but you won't know the use of each part. There are a lot of people that don't know why they use setups or specific setups. They don't know why they use this specific position sizing method, or why they use these specific rules of risk management in their approach. They don't, fully know why they use a specific selling technique. And it goes on and on, right? So what happens eventually? Once the market starts being a little more unfavorable, they start doubting the system. They feel uneasy. They start changing parts because they don't like the feedback. They don't understand also if this short-term feedback is normal or not, or if it should be expected. So they change, the setups, they change the selling tactics, they change the entry tactics, they change rules, they change scans, they change the preparation routine, and so on. And what actually happens, and it's funny, is they end up with a different foundation where once again the parts might not fit perfectly together again and be misaligned, and then they try things again, things don't work out, the feedback isn't good, they have again doubts, unanswered questions, they change parts again and again. And if you think about it, it's an infinite loop. Okay, like this is where many traders are stuck. So the question is, what do traders, do to escape this loop? What did I try to do? What's the common phrase you hear from a lot of traders out there? They say, one phrase. They say, yes, I picked up a lot of things, and then I made all of these things my own. But you have to understand the underlying meaning behind this phrase, because just picking up something new, doesn't mean anything. You just fill a gap, of a part in your foundation. Before picking up something new, you must know the use of all of your parts of in your foundation. And when you pick something new, a new idea or a concept, you must tailor this new part, whatever part it is, risk management, setups, whatever. You must tailor this part to fit your existing foundation without causing damage, or negate the effects of other parts of your foundation and your principles. And you must answer all the whys within your system in order to create these strong bonds, and not second guess things, and to avoid confusion and loops. So picking up things and just throwing them into your foundation is the easy part, alright? The hard part, is spending some days going full philosophical to answer, these whys, to eliminate some of your doubts, and that's, the only way. That's the only way. This is the only way that truly gives clarity and confidence, and enables to not being easily shaken out of your foundation by the norms you choose to build within your system. And when I say answer your whys, I truly mean it for most of the parts, of the foundation. For example, why do I do momentum trading? I have more options. I can do mean reversion, I can do contrarian trading, I can do social arbitrage, a ton more. Like, do I do momentum trading just because other people are making money, or because I found myself some superior trades to it and it corresponds with my personality as well? Why do I do swing trading or position trading? Why do I track, stocks that are in stage 2 in the cycle? Just because others have said that, this is the right way, or because I have convinced myself that this is the optimal way? And, it extends to many more questions. Why do I track this type of characteristics in stocks? Just because I saw them written in a book, alright, and applied from other traders, or because I've researched and verified things, or came up with slightly different things my own? Why do I use these specific filters to find stocks? Have I checked every one of them? Does every one of them make sense? Have I verified through history that they make sense? Or, I use them because someone else is using them? Are all the parts within my system in tune, to keep me true to my principles? Or is something off? And it goes on and on and on, guys. Okay, so you must do this analysis of all the parts and some mini parts of your foundation, both of your way of seeing the market and its structure, both for risk management and the math and probabilities behind it, the techniques you employ for the setups, everything. Okay, so to get back to the point, picking up things is perfect. That's the right way to go. Okay, you don't need, as many say, to reinvent the wheel. But listen, inheritance doesn't translate to strong bonds. I picked almost all of the things, all of the stuff that I do from others. I ended up, with a foundation similar to others, but I adjusted things and found some new things as well. Or if I did not adjust things, I answered, my doubts to solidify these parts. There is a huge difference between copy and paste compared to, copy, verify, align, adjust, paste, and then operate. Okay? So just to give you a quick example and not waste time here, for example, when I first heard that people, many traders were using tight stops, I said, okay, it has worked, tremendously well for them. But what's truly the reason behind using tight stops? Yes, you can have, for example, immediate feedback. Yes, your mistakes won't be as costly if you accompany this with small risks. But is there anything else behind the scenes of using tight stops? And then I researched deeper, and I found out about both structural reasons and mathematical edges behind this approach, and some of them, I briefly discussed them last year in the same conference. And that, for many other parts in the foundation, guys, you will never share the same feedback from people that you inherit things. So since you won't ever share this feedback, you must find other reasons besides feedback to stick to it. And do you know when true clarity and confidence emerges? When you find, when you find personal answers to your doubts, okay, and you actually reach a point, listen to this. You reach a point that you say, you know what, from my research, 95% of what I do and what I include in my system seems optimal, both from a personality level, both in terms of personal goals, both in terms of hidden edges and behavioral reasons and system reasons. So, since I found out that most of the things I do are optimal, either I do that or I should better not get involved in the markets. And this is a phrase that I use oftenly when I'm speaking to people. I repeat it, guys. When you actually reach a state that you have eliminated doubts, okay, and through that you have fine-tuned some details, you should say, okay, I do that or I don't do anything at all. Because what I have assembled, seems optimal to me. I've answered my whys, I found the good trades behind them, I've thought this foundation through. And this is when you actually can say that this is the state where true confidence begins. This is the state where markets, hostility doesn't make you style drift. This is a state where you are at ease with what you do, because you have solidified the parts and you have made these strong bonds that are needed. Okay? So that's about the topic of strong bonds. But as I said, a trending engine needs more things. Even that are not enough. And please, guys, don't be mistaken. I don't say, all that stuff are required to make money in the markets. Not at all, okay? I'm mentioning all that stuff if you really want to be, at the top of your game. If you want to really ensure longevity and operate, with a peace of mind and eliminate the chaos around you, okay? So, to continue with the topic, of mastering your foundation and escaping, the operator mindset, what's the next thing we want from an engine? Okay? So let's say now we have all the parts, they fit together, we have made them align, and we have, made some strong bonds. Now we want the engine to not overheat and break down. Another thing that leads, to many issues, especially the ones we usually blame psychology. So what does overheating mean? Overheating means pushing your engine, your trading system, beyond its limits without even knowing it. There are a ton of different foundations out there, as I said, but every foundation has, specific red lines that you shouldn't surpass. Otherwise, you will overheat the system and hurt your performance short term, or long term. The issue, though, as I said, is that people don't know what these lines are. So how do you avoid overheating? The answer is, learn the expectancy and the maximum capacity of your foundation. And that basically means knowing the ins and outs and the normalities that are bound to emerge from the very own foundation you have built. Like, you will be amazed, guys, of how often people get surprised by the normalities that they have chosen to build in their system. Okay, so let me ask you, some questions to start getting this idea about normalities and expectancies. So if I ask you right now, for example, based on your foundation, how many consecutive losing trades can you accept with a 99% certainty every month? Do you know if the answer is 5 consecutive losses, 7, 10, 15 at any given month? Or if I ask you, based on your foundation, what's the volatility you should expect, at any given period of time? Do you know the answer to that? Or if I asked you, based on your optimal stats within your foundation, what's the chance of having, let's say, 2 consecutive or 3 consecutive months, losing months, at any given point of time? Is it 30%, 40%, 10% possible? Like, do you know? And it goes on and on and on. Like, if I ask you, tomorrow you have a 5% drawdown in your portfolio, is it normal for you or is it abnormal? Should you expect it based on your foundation or not? Like, if you don't know about this stuff, then how can you decipher if the feedback you receive is to be expected or if it's abnormal? Are you sure that you are not overreacting at some periods from the things